Hello, my name is Dwayne Kimball, owner and founder of KMD 89 and VA Claims Consultant, Leave No Vet Behind, and also I'm a United States Army veteran. Today I'm bringing you another educational video as it pertains to the VA disability compensation claims process. And today I'm going to be discussing DBQs are back. Yes, I'll say it again, DBQs are back. Now, in some other videos, you probably heard me talk about how skeptical I was about the VA bringing the DBQs back. Congress signed into law. I didn't think that they were going to come back, but they did come back, and I'm glad that they did. And also, in some of those same videos, I did mention if they brought them back, there was going to be some things done a little bit differently, okay? Because in the past, a lot of veterans were getting these done by Tele-health, Tele-mental, and it went against one of the VA's M21 references, okay? So some things changed. I spent about 2 hours a day in the M21 and the 38 CFR, and I have some slides. And you know I love to show you some slides. I have 3 slides that I'm gonna go over, okay? In addition to that, I've posted a couple of dates of training that I'm going to provide on these new DBQs, okay? I've talked to a lot of veterans, and they told me they spent a lot of money of getting these DBQs completed, and they were always done they were always done by video, okay? That has somewhat changed in the M21, as I'm going to show you in the last slide today, okay? But there's some other information that the VA is throwing out there that you need to know. So I know a lot of people are going to run and go to their website. I'm going to provide that link to their website in the description section of this video, which shows their DBQs. And also, I'm going to put the link to my website where I'm going to, where you can sign up for the training, okay? So again, I have 3 slides that I'm going to show you, okay? So before you rush out, go to the VA's website, print out this DBQ, call the doctor, hey, I need you to do this DBQ for me. There's some things that you need to know before then. Okay, all right, slide 1. Slide 1. Here in slide 1, you can see that I listed the old M21 definition of DBQs from last year, April 10th, 2020, and the new M21 manual reference for the DBQ definition. Now, what's different about these two, and when I say I'm showing slides and I state that I highlighted something in red, I want to bring special attention to it, okay? So if you look at the bottom, the new updated M21 change, the bottom in red, it says DBQs are designed for internal use by both VHA and contract examiners. Contract examiners meaning QTC, LHI, VES services. And then in red, it states most are also approved for public use by private providers. Now, go back up to the top, April 10th, 2020, last year, that sentence that's highlighted in red at the bottom is not there. Now, I did review the definition of the M21 definition before April 10th, 2020, and what I have highlighted in red at the bottom was there, and then they removed that part of it once they removed the DBQs. In one of my previous videos, I talked about that, and I showed the difference between the two, but now they've put it back, okay? So, you know, what does that mean for everybody? Okay, so private providers can go back to completing DBQs. But the main issue before was that a lot of veterans were getting this done by Tele-health and Tele-mental, okay? And there was another M21 reference. I'm going to show you in the last slide where the VA said that private physicians could not complete DBQs, okay? But that's changed, but there's a catch. And you're gonna miss this if you don't pay attention to it, okay? So now private providers can complete DBQs, and it appears that they complete them by video. But let's take a look at one of the DBQs. I just took the back DBQ, but we're going to look at it because there's some information that I think is going to be a curveball for a lot of veterans, and they're going to miss this, and they're not going to understand as it pertains to the M21 reference that raters and RVSRs and VSRs often go to and follow. And then some of these have 38 CFRs attached to them. Okay, so slide number 2. Slide number 2, you can see here's a back DBQ. All right. Now, just off the top, one of the things that I see that's changed is if you look in the top right-hand corner, there's no expiration date like it was. It's not noted in the top right-hand corner like on the previous back DBQ that which expired, I think, December 31st, 2020. Okay, but I only took part of the first page. Okay, now the first section, the DBQ is asking, are you completing this disability benefit questionnaire at the request of veteran claimant or other? Kind of curious as to why they have that question there, okay? I always will look at that as, okay, not a trick question, but definitely a curveball, all right? Are you a VA healthcare provider? Is the veteran regularly seen as a patient in your clinic? Now, a moment of pause. Is the veteran regularly seen as a patient in your clinic? When I get to the next slide and I talk about evidence review and some probative value stuff, this is what you want to think about, this particular question, all right? Then it asks, was the veteran examined in person? Okay, we talked about that before. If no, how was the examination conducted? Now, you get to the evidence review. Evidence review, no records review, records review. And then please identify evidence that was reviewed. So, what does that mean? When I show you this next slide, I'll break it down for you a little bit, okay? Because this is the part that a lot of veterans are going to miss. I guarantee it, okay? If you were previously a client of mine and we went through the educational packet, you went through some of my training, or the DBQ review training, this is a little bit different, okay? And this slide that I'm about to show you is going to be a large gray area, and I think it's going to give that RVSR, each RVSR, they're going to interpret it a little bit different, and this is where it's going to get really, the waters are going to get really muddy, okay? So let's go ahead and jump in to slide number 3. And in slide number 3, you can see what I did was I took the top M21. Now both of these M21 references are the same. But at the first one at the top that has telehealth highlighted in yellow in the background, that is the old M21 reference. I didn't list the change date like on the first slide, okay? But here, that's the old. So if you go to the second paragraph, it states a mental health DBQ submitted by a private provider and based on a telephone interview with a veteran is not acceptable or actionable for rating purposes under any circumstances. Now, the new change to this particular M21 is a little bit different, and this is what I highlighted in red. When reviewing DBQs or medical examination reports prepared by private non-VA providers via means of telehealth or tele-mental health for the purposes of determining adequacy for the rating purposes, exercise prudent judgment by. Now, I would say go to that M21 that's highlighted in blue. I reviewed it, but I'll let you as a veteran go and do that research on your own. But then it says, before that, applying the general assessment principles discussed in that particular M21 and considering the credibility and probative value associated with variables disclosed in the DBQ report to include the clinician's knowledge of the claimant's relevant history. Again, claimant's relevant history. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Length of time the clinician has treated the veteran and extent to which medical records and or other records were reviewed and considered. Now, this is where it's going to get tricky for a lot of veterans because they're not going to think to say, okay, these are some things that I need to take into consideration, okay? And, I think also a lot of RVSRs, different RVSRs is going to interpret those last 3 bullet comments differently, okay? But what can you do as the veteran? Now, you can see in that last slide, it's totally different than the other, the previous reference. The current reference is different than the previous reference as it pertains to video, all right? But I think this is where the VA is throwing a curveball. Okay, I think they're saying, okay, we'll let you do it by video. We'll let you do it by video. But now, how many times have you been seen by this particular physician? What evidence is this particular examiner is reviewing to complete this DBQ? Okay, so that's where I was stating in my previous videos about, one, I didn't think they were going to come back, but if they did come back, they were going to be a little bit more stringent, and that's where they're getting stringent, okay? And it could be interpreted differently, and I think it's going to be a huge gray area amongst RVSRs, okay? Now, other people may say, oh, well, yeah, you can do this and you can do that. Read into the regulation. Read it. Those 3, and again, that last M21 reference, I didn't copy the entire M21 reference, so if I show a M21 reference, always make sure you go to the M21 reference, not only to see the remainder of the M21 reference, but to see if there's a 38 CFR Code of Federal Regulations associated with it or an additional M21 reference, okay? Because again, VSRs and RVSRs follow those, all right? So how long, and on the DBQ, that back DBQ, remember it asked, how long have you been treating this particular veteran? If you go back and look at the DBQ, the back DBQ that just expired, that question is not there, okay? So I think what they're trying to do, and I could be wrong, they're trying to eliminate one-stop shops, going in and getting a DBQ completed in person or by video now, and that's the only time that you've been evaluated by that particular examiner. Now, do I necessarily agree with that? No, because when you go to a CMP exam, that doctor is not seeing you multiple times, okay? So what's the difference? But again, this is where I think they're going to get a little bit more stringent. So some of the things that you want to take in consideration, or you should, this is just me. You can or you couldn't. Do you have a copy of your claims file? Have you submitted a FOIA request to obtain a copy of your claims file? Might not be a bad idea if you hadn't. So if there's something in there and you go to a particular examiner and they need to do DBQ or whatever along with a nexus statement, they have something that they can review and base that completion of the DBQ off objective evidence and not subjective evidence. Subjective, you just going in, you're just telling a story, okay? Because as you saw on that second slide, the DBQ, what evidence was reviewed? And they give a large box for that examiner to note what evidence was reviewed. So if you took my nexus statement training, educational training, or my PTSD review DBQ training, we talk about some examples of evidence that needs to be reviewed, okay? So I think it's gonna come down to which rater is gonna review your claim as it pertains to that DBQ, what boxes were checked in that DBQ, so just definitely keep that in mind. And if you're going out and you're paying hundreds of dollars to get a DBQ completed, you might wanna take the time to educate yourself to make sure you know how these DBQs should be completed. What evidence needs to be reviewed as it pertains to the M21 reference and any other 38 CFRs associated with those references, okay? So again, go to my website. I got a couple of dates already set up for training. So you definitely want to go check those dates out. I'm going to add a couple more, and we're going to go through some of these I'm going to pick a couple of DBQs, and we're going to go through them in detail, and we're going to talk about some of the questions that they're asking, and then we're going to talk about some of the M21 references as well, so you can be educated, so you're not just out there fumbling through the weeds, just trying to just submit stuff and hope that something stick. Okay, so with that being said, please like, subscribe, hit that notification button. Make sure you go to my website, check out that training, and I'll see you in my next VA educational video. Thank you.